Hi all of you, welcome to Narayana online digital classes. Today we are going to discuss the paper discussion over the 16th March 2021 JEE main paper. Based on the memory based questions we have some list and we will discuss them. Let's see the first question given. So this is the compound given here. Compound given here, organic chemistry with phenyl magnesium bromide followed by hydrolysis. What is the final product you are going to get? And the given organic molecule contain cyanide group as well as methoxy group, and we know that as phenyl magnesium bromide is just looking like alkyl magnesium halide, which is a Grignard reagent. So we can say that the RCN cyanides on reaction with R dash MgX. Now by shifting these electrons to nitrogen, and this carbon becomes now positive charge, and the R dash of RMgX is going to attack over the carbon here, and so that the resultant product what we can get now is R dash double bond N MgX followed by hydrolysis when you do, and hydrolysis the final product we can mention here as the compound. So the final product we can get here is now ketone. So we will get ketone. The particular cyanide group is now converting into ketone group here, and without affecting of OCH3, only cyanide group will be converted into ketone, and we have the option in among all four compounds and four options given, so we can go with option 2. Right? Now this is one of the easy question given, and let's see the next question. Greenhouse gases are environmental chemistry, the theory based chapter, and every time we are getting one question over that, and this is the question given here. Greenhouse gases are. So what is the composition of the greenhouse gases? And we can say that in the given list, which gases belong to greenhouse gases? Carbon dioxide is a part of greenhouse gas, and methane is a part of greenhouse gas, and ozone is a part of greenhouse gas, and we can say that water vapor also one of the part of greenhouse gases. And based on the options availability, we can select the second option, 1, 2 and 4. So carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor and ozone, and nitrous oxide, a small part, also can be considered as greenhouse gases. So let's see the next question. So which of the following reagent is used for the given conversion? In this particular question, if you identify clearly the reactant and the product mentioned, for double bond, the next position what we can simply say that as allylic position. Double bonded carbon, next carbon which is sp3 carbon, and we can say that is as allylic position, and this allylic position we are having that chlorine in the products. So in allylic position when chlorine is mentioned, the total process is nothing but allylic halogenation and particularly allylic chlorination. And among the list given here, which comes as a free radical substitution via allylic halogenation, if you consider, the first one is going via electrophilic addition because anhydrous AlCl3 can produce Cl plus cation, and Cl plus cation will be added first. And in case of second, it is nothing but Lucas reagent and for conversion of alcohols to alkyl halides. And fourth option also just nothing but addition reaction, and we have only one possibility, that is nothing but chlorine in presence of sunlight used for free radical substitution reaction for sp3 carbon. So we can say that only third option can give the respective product. Understand? So this is the simple conversion, allylic halogenation reagents. And let us see the next question. So these are the matching given, and in column 1 and in column 2 what substances were mentioned. So column 1 is the substance given and the test given, and column 2 is for the respective element. And as we know, among the list given, Lesson's test, as we know based on our knowledge, Lesson's test is used for identification of nitrogen. So we can surely directly match that. For C, we can write 4, Lessons test. And we know black precipitate with lead acetate. So black precipitate with lead acetate is nothing but the identification test for sulfur, which can form lead sulfide, which is black precipitate. So the lead acetate test is commonly used for sulfur, and so that we can write it is 2. And we know that AgNO3 silver nitrate test is commonly used for identification of halides, except fluoride. Chloride, bromide, iodide can be identified with AgNO3, and if you are getting that Cl- availability, and AgNO3 can form AgCl, which is a white precipitate. And if it is having Br- ion, it is producing silver bromide, which is a pale yellow color. And if it is iodide ion, it can form canary yellow precipitate of AgI. So silver nitrate is commonly used for identification of halogen. And the leftover is copper oxide, and we know copper oxide is used for identification and estimation for carbon. So carbon will be oxidized to carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide respectively, and with CuO, the carbon will be oxidized to carbon dioxide. So CuO is used for estimation of carbon. So the matching is now 3, 1, 4, 2. So identify which options we have. 3, 1, 4, 2. That is nothing but first option. So that is the answer, right? So this is easy question from practical organic chemistry. And this is next question, question number 5. And compound X on ozonolysis is giving the compound Y, and again the compound Y on reaction with silver nitrate, which is giving that silver mirror. So silver mirror test will be given by respective aldehydes. So aldehydes are capable of giving that. So which compounds are capable of yielding? Which compounds are capable of yielding aldehydes on ozonolysis? Those compounds can definitely give the silver mirror test, and that will be the answer. And suppose if you try the first compound, and when you are taking this compound, the way of ozonolysis products to write the ozonolysis products are completely cleave the double bond and add oxygen to the left side and right side around the double bond. So the product we can write here as double bond O, and here double bond O. This is compound A. Alkenes. So C double bond C will be completely broken, and you will get the respective ketones here. And in this case of alkynes, C triple bond C, when you are doing ozonolysis, particularly reductive ozonolysis, if, as they didn't mention whether it is oxidative or reductive, so consider reductive ozonolysis. So if it is C triple bond C, that will be converted into C single bond C here. And double bond O you will get as additional material. So as per that, the second compound we can get as a diketone, but not terminal ketone. If it is terminal ketone, that becomes aldehyde again, and that can give silver mirror test again. So second compound, no. And similarly, if you write third compound product, so third compound also similarly we can get now. So the first one is double bond O here, that is nothing but propanone. And the second part of the compound we can get here is a cyclopropanone. And now see the fourth option given. In fourth option, again we got alkyne. So CH3, C double bond O, single bond C, double bond O, H. So if you identify the compound here, we have an aldehyde. As we have an aldehyde functional group we have, so that is capable of giving silver mirror test. So when such questions are given, simply identify all options possible products and then guess the option and then answer the question. So for this given question, the correct answer is 4. Right? So let's see the next question given. So this is wooden laminates are made by. It's a polymers concept. Wooden laminates are made by. So applications of polymers, the wooden laminates are made by melamine formaldehyde resin. It's a theory-based question, so directly we can say the answer as melamine formaldehyde is the answer for the wooden laminates are made up by. So let's go for the next question then. So which of the following is least basic among the following compounds? So 4 compounds are given and asking that which is least basic. And if you see that the first one we have triethylamine, and the second one we have is diethylamine, and the third one we have is amide, CH3CON. Here again we have H and CON, so CH3 we have. So it's amide. And fourth one also amide only we have. So C double bond O and H, here ethyl group and here methyl group. So as we know that amines and amides comparatively, amines are more basic than amides. As amines are more basic than amides, but they are asking that least basic compound among the following. So first two are more basic than amides. So first two options are eliminated. Now among the remaining two, identify which compound contain more amide groups. The last one has only one amide part, but the third one has 2 amide parts. So more number of amide parts becomes least basic now. As amides are always least basic due to delocalization of electrons and due to conjugation. So that is the only problem here. So we can say as this lone pair of nitrogen is involving in conjugation with this side as well as with this side. So there are 2 possibilities of resonance for left side and right side. So lone pair availability over nitrogen is very, very less, and so that it becomes least basic. So the answer for the given question is 3. Okay, and let's see the next question then. So this is question number 8. Here they gave the reactant here as benzene compound containing CH3 methyl group and containing OCH3 methoxy group. And in the product side, without affecting the methoxy, CH3 group is oxidized to respective carboxylic acid. So benzylic carbon is oxidized to benzoic acid. Benzylic carbon is oxidized to benzoic acid. So what is a suitable reagent for that? And if you see the list of reagents given, so first one is mentioned as LiAlH4, which is a reducing agent. Reducing agent cannot make the oxidation of a compound. And NaBH4 also a reducing agent, which cannot convert the benzylic carbon to benzoic acid. So reducing agents are not used for oxidation, and they are used only for reduction. And among the list, we have only one oxidizing agent, that is nothing but acidified KMnO4, which acts as oxidizing agent, which can oxidize the benzylic carbon to benzoic acid. So simply by elimination method, we can directly answer that as a fourth option. Next one. So here it is. Ammonolysis of alkyl halide to prepare primary, secondary and tertiary amines followed by NaOH is. As we know that alkyl halides, if you are taking that, when they were allowed to react with ammonia, then we can get amines, primary amines, secondary amines, tertiary amines. And in the solution, after followed by what we are using that as again NaOH. So the total solution is treated with NaOH further. The treatment with NaOH purpose is if there is any acidic impurities, the acidic impurities can be removed by NaOH, which is a strong base. And so that as these are less basic than NaOH, they can be protected. So primary amines, secondary amines, tertiary amines on ammonolysis, whatever the products we got, those get without reacting with the acid, they can be separated easily if we have the treatment with NaOH, right? So the next question, if you see that, secondary structure of protein is stabilized by, secondary structure of protein is stabilized by. So proteins secondary structures are always stabilized by hydrogen bond. That is a common point, we can say that. Okay, and it is a theory based question. If it is molecule to molecule, we can say that as van der Waals forces, and molecule to molecule, we can say that there may be chance of hydrogen bonding. So as we are having that hydrogen bonding connectivity in secondary structures of proteins, so answer is hydrogen bonding. And next question. So this is the question given. Sodium hydride, it's a statement based question. Two statements are given and we have to verify which statement is true and which statement is false, whether they are correct or not. So sodium hydride is the first compound, and sodium hydride can be used as an oxidizing agent, and pyridine is basic due to lone pair of nitrogen. And we know that sodium hydride, sodium is a metal. Sodium is a metal. Metal hydrides, all metal hydrides are very good oxidizing agents or reducing agents, we can say. Metal hydrides are very good reducing agents. As metal hydrides are very good reducing agents, so NaH, hydrogen has -1 oxidation state and sodium has +1 oxidation state. So because of H- ion, hydride ion, it acts as a good reducing agent. And the statement 1 they mentioned is oxidizing agent, which is false. So statement 1 is false statement. Now verify the second statement. So pyridine is basic due to lone pair of nitrogen. Yes, it is. If you are taking that pyridine molecule, so in case of pyridine, we can say that nitrogen has a lone pair here, double bond here. So delocalization is there in pyridine molecule, but for delocalization, this lone pair of nitrogen is not involving. The lone pair of nitrogen is not involving in conjugation or delocalization, and this is available for donation, and that is acting as a basic site. So pyridine, nitrogen act as a basic position, basic site. As per the statement, pyridine is basic due to lone pair of nitrogen. Yes, it is obviously true statement. So first statement is false and the second statement is true. So option 1, verify. Both statements are correct. No. Second statement, second option. Statement 1, statement 2 are false. No. Third, 1 is correct, 2 is false. No. And what we have here then, 1 is false and the second is true. Okay. Right. So let's see the next question given here. Vapor pressure of pure liquids AB. Pure liquids AB, they are volatile liquids, because if they are volatile liquids, then only they will mention the vapor pressures. And if they are non-volatile liquids, they do not mention the vapor pressure, as for a non-volatile liquid, the vapor pressure is 0. Okay. So pure liquids A and B have 21 and 18 mm of Hg. And then determine the vapor pressure of solution obeying Raoult's law containing 1 mole of A and 2 moles of B. So I am saying that number of moles of A, 1, and we can say that number of moles of B is 2. Then what is mole fraction of A? We can write now 1 by 1 plus 2. Number of moles of A by number of moles of A plus B, total number of moles, 1 by 1 plus 2. Similarly, mole fraction of B we can write as 2 by 1 plus 2. So here we can write 1 by 3 and here we can write 2 by 3. Okay, so that is value. Now, as per Raoult's law, total vapor pressure over a solution containing non-volatile volatile liquids. Total vapor pressure over the solution containing volatile liquids A and B. And P total we can write here as P naught A into XA plus P naught B into XB. So P naught A, how much was mentioned for pure vapor pressure of liquid A? That is 21 into vapor pressure of XA, A. That is nothing but mole fraction of A is XA, that is 1 by 3. Plus, what is P naught B here? They mentioned 18, and mole fraction of B in liquid phase is 2/3. So value is 3/7 and 3/6 here. So 7 plus 12, that is 19. So the answer for the question number 12 is 19. Okay. So let's see the next question then. So this is question number 13. They gave two elements, and two elements IE1, IE2 data were mentioned. As two ionization potential data were mentioned here, particularly we have to identify that ionization potential data is actually belonging to which set of pairs given. So they gave the combination are sodium magnesium, magnesium sodium, sodium fluorine, and magnesium fluorine. Right. And examine that first molecule, first ionization potential data for first element A, that is 400 and 4000. 400 and 4000 ionization potential 1 and 2. There is a huge jump between 1 and 2. If there is a huge jump between 1 and 2, which means that you can remove the first electron in easy manner, but the second electron removal is much difficult, which means that we can predict it may have only one valency electron. So that number of valency electrons for A, number of valency electrons we can mention that as ns1. And it is nothing but group 1 element, so that is nothing but A we can mention as sodium. So we have two options of sodium in first option and third option. Now examine the second one. So 700 and 1400. 700 and 1400. So removal of second electron, first electron, when compared to A, removal of first electron in B is difficult. But removing of second electron is somewhat easy compared to removal of second electron in A. So as per that, we can assume that the B may have the configuration of ns2. So by removing first electron, it may have ns1, and by removing the second electron also it may have the nearest noble gas configuration. So that third ionization potential will be very high. So first and second, if the difference is not very much high and there is no huge gap, then we can say that both electrons are removable electrons, and we can send them as valence electrons both are. So having that ns2 configuration, and the element will be nothing but magnesium. So that option will be 1. Okay. And let's go for the next question then. So this is the question given here. Half-life time of two first order reactions were mentioned. So A gives products and B gives products, and they particularly mention the values. Right. Now, what is the data given here? I am writing here T half of first reaction is 54 minutes and T half of second reaction is 18 minutes. Now, what is the rate constant of first reaction K1? I am saying that rate constant will be 0.693 by T half. And what is rate constant for the second? We can mention similarly 0.693 by 18. So we have rate constants K1 and K2. And we know that first order kinetics formula Kt is equal to 2.303 log of A by A minus X is the common formula. And so if you are applying that for first equation, so I am writing K1 and T because they are asking that starting with equimolar concentrations of A and B, determine the time after which A is equal to 16B. Now apply that T is equal to K1, what we can mention that as 0.693 by 54 into T is equal to 2.303 log A by, so I am taking this as some P. P stands for number of moles of A left over. Number of moles of A left over. After certain time interval, So number of moles of A left is equal to, I am taking P, and number of moles of B left will be, I am taking as a Q for our calculations and considerations. So I am taking this as equation 1. Similarly for B, if you apply 0.693 by 18, T is equal to 2.303 log A by Q we can mention. So take it as equation 2 and write 1 minus 2. If you write 1 minus 2 or 2 minus 1, and if you simplify, the answer will be same. So if you are writing 1 minus 2 or 2 minus 1, I am writing here, so 2 minus 1. So take that 0.693 by 18 into T minus 0.693 by 54 into T is equal to, we can mention that 2.303 log A minus, I am taking log A minus log Q, okay? And when you are taking this minus 1 here, so this become what now? P by A we can mention, P by A. So that I am writing now here log P minus log A. So log A cancelled. Then what we have identified? So in this 0.693 by 18 T, if you take common, we can mention 1 minus 1 by 3, because 18 3 is 54, which is equal to 2.303 log, what we can write now here, P by Q, P by Q. So how much was mentioned here? P by Q is equal to, we can write 16 directly, 16 directly, because A is 16 times of B, P is 16 times of Q. We can directly mention that. So on simplification, so 2.303 into log 16, we write 2 log 4, 2 log 2 power 4, and we can mention that 4 log 2. So log 2 value again 0.3010, which is equal to this value. So on simplification, so 1 minus 1 by 3, we write 2 by 3. So T is equal to finally 18 by 0.693 into this 2 by 3. If it go that side, we can mention 3 by 2 into 2.303 into 4 into 0.3010. So simplifications. So 2.303 into 0.3010 is nothing but 0.693 cancel. So 2 1s and 2 2s we have. And then what the value we write here? 18 into 3 into 2. 18 into 3, 54 into 2, 108. So the answer to the given question is exactly 108. So this is the way of solving the question, right? Okay. Next question. So if both Fex2, Fey3 are found to exist, we know iron can combine with halogens. And form dihalides as well as trihalides. And we can say that trihalides all are possible or not possible if you just identify. We can surely identify a point. So Fei3 do not exist. Iron trihalide, iron triiodide do not exist, because I minus is a good reducing agent, again reduces Fe plus 3 to become Fe plus 2 again. That's why except Fei3, the remaining FeF3, FeCl3, FeBr3 will exist. So in triiodides, means particularly trihalides, with iodine it is not possible. So just check the options. With dihalides all are possible. So Fex2, so X may be fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. S it is possible. And Fex3 type, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine is not there. Because Fei3 do not exist. So the answer for the given question is 1. Right? So let's go for the next question then. Metallurgy, we can say that which of the following cannot be reduced by coke? In Ellingham diagram applications, if you see that when you have drawn the graph for delta G versus temperature, delta G naught versus temperature when the graph is taken. So this here it is around aluminum graph, Al2O3 graph. And so there is a graph for carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide graphs are here in this range. So as we can say that normal temperatures at a particular temperature, so which material can be reduced by the given material? If you want to answer, you can say simply a logic. The upper oxide can be reduced by down metal or down element, whatever it was mentioned in the Ellingham diagram sequence. And this is the graph representing the aluminum and this is the graph representing the carbon. So upper element like zinc oxide, if you are taking copper oxide, and if you are taking silver oxide, whatever you can consider. So if this carbon graph, whichever carbon graph can intersect the particular oxides of a metal, so those metals can be reduced by respective carbon. But aluminum graph and carbon graph never intersect generally at the given range of temperature. So aluminum oxide can never be reduced by carbon, so that we can reduce that by electrolytic reduction. Electrolytic reduction we can go for molten alumina. So that is the only technique here. So which of the following cannot be reduced by coke is nothing but aluminum oxide. Zinc oxide can be reduced, iron oxide can be reduced, copper oxide also can be reduced. As the three remaining oxides, the graphs the curves are almost lying above the carbon line. So the answer is aluminum oxide. And this is the next question. Volume of 1 molar NaOH solution required to neutralize 50 ml H3PO3, 1 molar H3PO3 and 2 molar H3PO2. And we know that H3PO3 and H3PO2 combination is mentioned. So H3PO3 and H3PO2 mixture is now allowed to react with NaOH. And we know that N factor for complete reaction is 2 for H3PO3 because it contains only 2 replaceable hydrogens. And whereas for H3PO2 there is only 1 replaceable hydrogen. And as per principle of equivalence, we can say that number of equivalents of H3PO3, so respectively means separately how to consider. So H3PO3 is equal to number of equivalents of NaOH. So normality into volume of H3PO3 is equal to normality into volume of NaOH. And molarity they gave 1 and into N factor 2 into volume 50 is equal to normality of NaOH is given 1, and so that volume we can calculate. So volume is equal to 100. So first phase its requirement is 100 ml. And similarly apply the second part also for H3PO2 versus NaOH. If you do that, the same we can write. So 100 ml into molarity 2 into N factor 1, which is equal to, so normality 1 for NaOH and volume. So volume of NaOH is requirement is 200 ml. So 100 ml for first compound and 200 ml for the second compound. So the answer is the first option. Simple logic, principle of equivalence in titrations. Next question. Elements with atomic numbers 33, 53, 83 respectively are. Okay. If you are going for the first 33, we know that atomic number of zinc, well, that is 30. Atomic number of zinc 30, and after that 31, after that 32, after that 33 atomic numbers. We know this belong to 3A and this belong to 4A and this belong to 5A family. 5A family. In 5A family, we know nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic. So nitrogen atomic number 7 and phosphorus atomic number 15. 15 and the remaining 18 if you write, add 15 plus 18, 33. So this is nothing but what we can write now, arsenic. Arsenic. Okay, and that is a simple idea, right? And if you are taking that, next number was given as 53, and 53 if you check, just check similarly here, so we can say that atomic number 53 is for iodine and atomic number 83 is for bismuth. As you are taking this bismuth here, and we know arsenic is a metalloid, iodine is a non-metal, and bismuth is a metal. So what combinations we have? 33, first one is a metalloid, and 53 is nothing but non-metal, and bismuth is a metal. So option we can go for is 1. Okay. As we know, 82, atomic number 82 is lead. So after lead immediately we will have, that is bismuth. Next question. So this is the next question we have. Which of the following are correct for H2O2? So we know that H2O2 in options 4 statements are given about true or false about hydrogen peroxide. So statement 1 is given, used in pollution control treatment of industrial effluents. And H2O2 can act as both oxidizing agent and reducing agent, miscible in water, and 2 hydrogen groups are in the same plane. So these are the 4 statements given. And we can surely say that the first statement is undoubtedly true, as it is the practical application for H2O2. And we know that H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, oxygen has -1 oxidation state. So because of having -1 oxidation state, act as oxidizing as well as reducing agent. It is miscible in all proportions with water. And now verify option statement D. As you take H2O2 structure, we have as open book structure. As we are having open book structure just like the folding here, so we can say that the 2 hydrogens and 2 OH groups will never be on the same plane. So D is wrong. Then as per that, the option 1 is correct. Okay. Next, let's see the next question given here. So these are the question given here. Arrange the following compounds assuming to be high spin. Means there is no abnormal pairing considered. In increasing order of spin moment. So spin only moment, how do we calculate? Mu is equal to root of n plus 2 Bohr magnetons we can use. So n stands for number of unpaired electrons. So if a substance contains number of unpaired electrons more, its spin magnetic moment also more. So identifying that cerium, urea, europium and gadolinium, 3 compounds, 3 elements were given here, cerium and europium and gadolinium. So what is configurations for cerium, europium and gadolinium? The outer configurations, if you just check it. And for cerium, we can mention that as 4F1 and 5D1 and 6S2 is the valency configuration for cerium. And for europium it is 6S2 and 4F7. And for gadolinium it is 6S2, 4F7 and 5D1. These are the electronic configurations of respective elements. Now identify for cerium, in given compounds NH4 twice means ammonium positive ion, so that oxidation number of cerium in the given compounds were NO3 minus 1. So 6 NO3s we have and 2 ammoniums we have. So cerium has oxidation number +4. So cerium +4. Next, similarly, europium we have +3 and gadolinium we have +3. So these are the ions we have as Ce +4, Eu +3 and Gd +3. Now these are the respective configurations. So if you consider Ce +4, total 4f1, 5d1, 6s2, all electrons will be gone. And so that what is the n number of unpaired electrons here? 0. Number of unpaired electrons 0 for Ce +4. So I am directly writing here number of unpaired electrons are 0 for Ce +4. Now for Eu +3, 2 electrons are removed here and one more electron is removed from 4f, and so that you will have 4f6, and so that number of unpaired electrons are 6 here for europium. And gadolinium, Gd +3, 6s2 and 5d1 totally removed, and we have 4f7, and which contain total number of unpaired electrons 7. So that number of unpaired electrons are more, then spin magnetic moment also more, and that is the correct order. Cerium, europium and gadolinium. Cerium, europium and gadolinium. Okay. Next question. Gallium crystallizes in HCP lattice, and if the total number of whites in 0.581 grams of gallium is given as x into 10 power 21, then determine x. Now it is in HCP type. As it is in HCP type, so just find out first what is the weight of gadolinium given, weight of gallium given. So weight of gallium given is 0.581. Then number of moles of gallium. So 0.581 by 70. Number of moles of gallium element exists. Right. And then what is number of atoms of gallium then? Number of atoms of gallium is equal to 0.581 by 70 into 6.023 into 10 power 23. These are the number of atoms of gallium. Right. As we know that it is HCP type, so effective atomic number, effective number of atoms present per HCP unit cell is 6. And we know that for general size, just general idea, if number of atoms effectively present, number of atoms are Z, then octahedral whites will be Z, and then tetrahedral whites will be 2Z. If a number of atoms present in a given unit cell is Z, then we can write that octahedral whites value also will be the same as Z, and tetrahedral whites will be 2Z. And then what is total whites then? Total voids, we can mention them as 3Z. 3Z. So number of atoms to total number of voids ratio is always 1:3, and we can say that, so that total number of voids will be 0.581 by 70 into 6 into 10 power 23 into 3 we can mention. And simplify that on simplification. So we are getting how much value approximately? Identify the number is close to 15 into 10 power 21 you will have. 15 into 10 power 21 you will have. Because they are asking in terms of 10 power 21. So the value of x is near to 15. So that is the answer for the question number 21. And next, which of the following is incorrect statement? The first statement, if you consider Al plus 3 Na plus flocculation power or value, identify. So power is maximum if charge is maximum. Charge is maximum, power is maximum, and value is opposite to that. And Al plus 3 has plus 3 units and Na plus has only 1 unit, so flocculation power is maximum for aluminium ion. And colloids show Brownian motion. It's a property of colloids. Brownian motion and Tyndall effect are common. And colloids shows colligative property as it is. So this is true statement, this is a true statement, this is a true statement. And let us go for the fourth. colloidal solutions cannot pass through ordinary filter paper. That is wrong, because ordinary filter paper, the pore size is approximately of the colloidal dimensions. So colloidal solutions can pass through normal ordinary filter paper, but specially designed paper, they cannot pass through. So the fourth statement is false. Incorrect statement is the fourth one. Okay. So let's go for the next question then. Number of orbitals having ml is equal to +2 in n is equal to 5. N is equal to 5 means fifth orbit. We know that for a given n, we can write L. If n is equal to 5, then L is equal to, we write 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And if you can write L values, then ml always depends on L. We know that ml always have the values from minus L to 0 to plus L, we can mention. Okay. So if L is 0, ml always have only 0. If L is 1, then ml have minus 1, 0, plus 1. And the question they are asking is minimum ml value plus 2. And if L is equal to 2, then ml minus 2 to plus 2. So there is one possibility in this one. If L is equal to 3, then ml values are from minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, plus 1, plus 2, plus 3. Again, in L is equal to 3, we have one more ml value plus 2. Similarly, if L is equal to 4, again we can find ml value as plus 2 one more. So total L value 2, L value 3, L value 4, there are one orbital in each containing ml value as plus 2. So total only 3 orbitals are there here. Number of orbitals containing ml value plus 2 in fifth orbit. That is a simple logic. Okay. Right. And next question. Incorrect statements regarding C60 fullerenes. As we know that a very simple, we can say that. So C60 fullerenes, if you consider, the first statement itself is what they give, 24 6-membered rings, 12 5-membered rings is wrong, because we know that it contains 24 5-membered rings and 12 6-membered rings. That is the only wrong in the directly we can pick out. Okay. The remaining statements, if you read that, 5-membered rings only attached to 6-membered rings, as 6-membered rings attached to both 5 and 6-membered rings, and a carbon is attached to 3 carbon atoms. Yes, it is. The remaining all statements are true except the first one. Right. And this is the next question. Number of moles of PbSO4 obtained on reacting 35 ml PbNO3 twice, and when it is reacting with Cr2SO4 thrice. So the product will be PbSO4 and chromic nitrate CrNO3 thrice. So balance the equation, as we have 3 sulfates here and we can mention 3 here, so that we can get 3 PbSO4 and 2 CrNO3 thrice. That is a balanced equation. Now identify what is the quantity of PbNO3 given. PbNO3 twice, 35 into 0.15, and chromic sulfate 50 into 0.2. So 50 into 0.2, 1 we can mention in terms of directly millimoles. 10. So this is 10 we can write, and this value 35 into 0.15. Okay. So if you simplify that, how much we are getting, identify which is limiting reagent and which is excess reagent. So we can say that 3 moles can combine with 1. So 1 mole can combine with 3, and here 10 moles can combine with 30, we can say. So number of millimoles for lead nitrate should be minimum 30 to make complete reaction. So whether it is 30 or not, identify 35 15s. So 15 5s 75, 15 3s 45 plus 7, 52, and we can write here 35. So 7, and we can write here 8. So what we write now here? 8.75. So which is limiting reagent? We can say this is limiting reagent, because we know that 3 and 1 and 10 means 30 it should be. So but here we have only 8.75. 8.75. Okay. So 8.75, or just check the simple calculation errors. Simplify the values. Okay. So this is the value we can write. And as we know that limiting reagent, so 3 moles can give 3 moles of PbSO4. 3 moles can give 3 moles of PbSO4. And identify what is the value here. Directly we are getting that. They are asking what? Number of moles. Directly they are asking. Number of moles they are asking. So if you are solving that, so some x into 10 power minus 5 you will get. And the value will be around how much we can get. If you on solving that, we can get around 525 into 10 power minus 5. 10 power minus 5 you will get. Okay. So the value of x is 525. So simplify this checking and just check the data which is limiting reagent and apply the limiting reagent here and identify the answer directly. Okay. Next. Determine the pH of 0.588 molar sulfurous acid. We know that H2SO3 is a dibasic acid which can give H plus and HSO3 minus, and again the HSO3 minus is capable of giving H plus and SO3 minus too. Compare the Ka values. Ka1 is given 1.7 into 10 power minus 2 and Ka2 is 10 power minus 8. So Ka2 is very small. So you can ignore the second equilibria. We can ignore the second equilibria. So 0.588, 0, 0. 0.588 of 1 minus alpha, 0.588 alpha. Here also we can write the same. And substitute them in Ka1. So 0.588, right, into alpha whole square by 0.588 into 1 minus alpha is equal to 1.7 into 10 power minus 2. 1.7 into 10 power minus 2. So on solving that, how much we are getting identified, and what is H plus value we are getting here identified. So we can write directly here C alpha square 0.588 alpha square by 1 minus alpha is equal to 1.7 into 10 power minus 2. And if you ignore that, directly we can write alpha square is equal to 1.7 into 10 power minus 2 by 0.588, and alpha is equal to root over the value. Root over the value. Directly we can write alpha is equal to over Ka by C. We know that. Ka1 by C. Directly find that and simplify that and mention directly C alpha here. So this value of alpha is around 0.03 or 0.13. So once check the value here, alpha value exactly. So if you are taking that as 0.6 nearby, so this value 18 if you consider, so approximately 3 we can write in that values. So 3 into 10 power minus 2. So simplify that. So root 3 value, whatever you get, substitute that and identify them. And on solving them, so total H plus concentration will be 0.588 alpha, which is close to 1 you will have. So close to 0.1 you will have. And H plus value, if it is 0.1, and then the pH value is minus of log of H plus, and which we write as here directly close to 1. So nearest integer we can directly write the answer as 1. Okay. So pH of the solution is approximately close to 1, right? So that's the paper. Thank you.